Hey, good morning, Choice Residential. Hope your day is off to a great start. So, a question that we get actually quite often is, are we allowed to list a property for rent at Choice? The answer is yes, but then you need to consider a second question, which is, should I? Should I take this on for a client just because they ask me? First, let's just go through the logistics of doing it, which is we have a loop template in .loop. It has the necessary form 405-T that you'll fill out. This allows you to market a property for rent, but does not allow any property management activities. So you cannot vet tenants. You cannot fill out leases for the owner or the tenant. You can pass along the landlord's, the owner's application to a tenant, but that's really as far as it should go. And you want to make it very clear that you are not providing any management activities. There is no money coming to you as part of that transaction in terms of from the tenant to the landlord. You are simply marketing it to attract potential tenants and make it so that other agents can show that property, but you're doing nothing from a management standpoint. That is vitally important. It is strictly against our policies to do any property management under the Choice umbrella. So the reason you want to ask yourself, is it worth it to take this on? Typically, the range that agents charge for this is somewhere between half a month's rent and a month's rent. So really not a ton of money in the big scheme of things there. When you list a property for rent, oftentimes you'll find out that your phone starts ringing off the hook with tenants and people that want to go see it. So you have to figure out, is it worth putting yourself in that situation to receive those kinds of calls? Maybe you like that. Maybe you want to develop some relationships, use that as a nurture for someone who might buy a home eventually. I can tell you, the conversion rate there may not be amazing, but maybe that's something you want to consider as either a positive or a negative. But the other thing is that when it comes to property management and landlord tenant laws, most of us are not up to speed on what is acceptable, what's a violation, what could be illegal conduct or communication. For example, did you know that if a tenant asks for an application, you are required to provide it to them, even if you know 100% based on what they've told you that they would not qualify to rent that house? It doesn't matter. It's actually against the law, against fair housing, not to provide them with that application. There are so many ways that you can get yourself into trouble with listing properties for rent if that is not something that you are wholly focused on. So oftentimes it's better just to help them find a referral for a property manager who could list it for rent, even if they want to manage it themselves. But if you do choose to take that on, just be prepared that you do have an obligation to return phone calls when tenants reach out to you, return emails or text messages, just like you would on any other property. The way you communicate says a lot about you. So if you're going to take on the task of listing a property for rent, you must be willing to take on what comes with it. So happy to talk through that with you based on my experiences. But just give thought that we know you're trying to be helpful to this past client of yours, maybe who owns a rental property. They'll manage it. They want you to list it for rent. Sometimes you're biting off more than you were expecting. And the expectations of you as a realtor don't change just because that property is listed for rent. So hopefully this is helpful for you. Again, if you are going to do that, we have a loop template called a lease listing loop. And it has the paperwork right there, as well as the checklist showing you what is needed. If you have other questions, please feel free to reach out. We're always happy to help. Until next time, take care.